Hello and welcome. In this episode, I'm going to share encounters with the Fae. These stories include encounters with dancing balls of light and a young woman who was attacked by something while swimming. But first, we start with an encounter from England where one young man was attacked after confronting what he thought was a fairy. Before we get started, I just want to say that a lot of people turn to posting their stories online because they feel like they can't tell anyone and would be seen as crazy if they did. Most people who experience these beings are traumatized and feel the need to unburden themselves, or just have someone who will believe them listen to their story. If you've had an encounter and you feel like you can't tell anyone for fear of being made fun of, ridiculed, called a liar, or any other reason, email me. You'll find a sympathetic ear here who will believe you. I do want to mention that just because you email me your story, it doesn't mean it will end up in an episode on my channel. Your story can stay between me and you if that's what you want. Also, if you've had an encounter and you'd like to come on an episode and tell your story, email me. My email is wolfwhocriedcryptid@gmail.com. Alright, let's get into today's stories. The first story of this episode comes to us from England, where one user was attacked after confronting what he thought was a fairy. His incident took place, as he recalls, somewhere near Flamborough or Whitby in Yorkshire. On December 27, 2019, between 5:45 and 6 p.m., he experienced something bizarre. Living in the UK, his heritage is predominantly Irish on his father's side, with his family residing in the area for about 4 generations. Many of them had migrated after the Irish Civil War, working as farm laborers and forming a vibrant community before the influx of Londoners changed the dynamic. After finishing work, he was walking up a hill to reach his home from the station. At the top, there were two Victorian lampposts. To the right, houses lined a steep embankment leading to a dell with a tarmac floor, while to the left lay woodlands dominated by oak and beech trees. Near the closer lamppost, he noticed a figure struggling to climb it. Initially, he mistook it for a rat due to his short-sightedness and lack of glasses at the time. However, as he approached this thing, the figure appeared increasingly humanoid. Shocked and overwhelmed by the absurdity of the situation, he couldn't help but laugh and shouted, "Go F yourself, you fairy." Suddenly, a loud clap or explosion occurred behind his head, knocking him to the ground. Without any visible injuries or bumps, he was left bewildered by the sheer force of the incident. Terrified, he ran away from the scene. He shared his story so he could better understand that he was incredibly fortunate to escape unharmed and to find out if others have experienced similar unexplained events. He ends by saying that if anyone has a story like his, he's eager to hear it. In reply to a comment, he adds context to his experience, saying that his family has a long history of witnessing peculiar phenomena. While many of these tales have been passed down over generations and remain unverifiable, he can personally attest to the experiences his father recounted directly to him. His father, a logger, worked across private estates in the UK, cutting down trees for commercial purposes. On one occasion, he was part of a crew of several workers handling approximately 12 tons of heavy-duty logging equipment, including a tractor used as a generator. After completing the felling of several Scots pine trees, the team prepared to head back to their base. Shockingly, all 12 tons of machinery vanished without a trace. No tracks, no signs, no explanation. The team launched a thorough search of the surrounding area but found nothing. Yet upon returning to the original site, they discovered the equipment exactly where it had been, as though it had never disappeared in the first place. His father didn't attribute the incident to fairies, but further research suggested to him that it could have been the work of some kind of trickster force, perhaps reminiscent of phenomena linked to places like Skinwalker Ranch or an old RAF base in the UK, both of which seemed to share similar unexplained occurrences. Although the original poster knows of other family anecdotes involving strange events, these stories were passed down secondhand and cannot be corroborated. Thus, he refrains from sharing them. I often talk about what kinds of effects these beings, cryptids or otherwise, can have on our minds, with it pointing to them having supernatural abilities. This story is no different. However, this is the first time I've seen something like this used as an attack. That's certainly what it seemed like based on how the original poster described the events playing out and a loud bang in his head after yelling at the fairy. He's lucky he was able to get out of there unscathed, because if this thing was able to do that to him, there's no telling what else it could have done. As far as his family having had strange encounters that are passed down through generations, I believe that once the paranormal or supernatural door is opened, as long as it's left open, the people involved become beacons for that kind of activity. Being that his family has had strange encounters for generations, it would certainly seem like they have attracted notice. What do you think about this story? And what do you make of his family history and encounters? The next story is actually two short encounters with what appeared to be dancing balls of light that moved with purpose and intelligence. The first comes from coastal North Carolina, where one young man saw a bizarre sight one night. He says he witnessed something that, based on what he knows, might resemble a fairy. While out in the woods with a couple of his friends, each just having one beer, the unusual occurrence began. As they stood there, a glowing orb of pinkish purple light appeared, drifting through the air. Its movement was playful, almost like someone skipping, and it gradually approached them. When the light was just about 6 feet away, it stopped abruptly and hovered in place for a brief moment. Then, without warning, it veered sharply into the woods, heading in a completely different direction. He had heard a phenomena like this called will o' the wisps or fairy lights. According to one of his friends whose family had lived in the area for generations, these mysterious lights are said to frequent the deeper sections of the forest. Locals believe they sometimes lead people astray to lure them into dangerous swampy areas with sinkholes. The eerie story sticks with him to this day. The second short encounter came from a woman who commented on the first story, saying she had an almost identical experience. From her dining room, she was watching birds enjoy the food she had set out for them. Suddenly, she saw a glowing green orb, appearing larger than a tennis ball from her vantage point, begin darting and weaving through the branches. Its movements were so fluid and lifelike, it left her utterly mesmerized. For a moment, she stood frozen in awe until the light vanished. Then a wave of panic set in as she worried something might be wrong, perhaps even fearing an oncoming seizure. However, that concern quickly faded when nothing happened, and instead she was left in awe of what she had just witnessed. Sadly, she never encountered the mysterious phenomenon again, but the memory vividly remains with her. I've heard other stories where fairies are so small they appear like little balls of light, and these two short accounts further add credence to that being true. The way the first story describes it stopping and hovering before darting off into a specific direction really points to this thing, whatever it was, having an intelligence to it. I think if I saw something like that, I'd be pretty amazed too, especially if it was moving with purpose. That, of course, would be after I got over the shock of seeing an actual floating light flying like it was sentient. This world is certainly full of wonders and a lot more supernatural than what people think and or want to admit. What do you think about these two stories? What would you do if you saw a dancing light that seemed to be moving with purpose? The final story of this episode comes to us from Ireland, where one user was attacked by something unseen while swimming one day. She believes she may have encountered the Fae a few years ago while spending time with her cousin, who she'll call E for the sake of this account. The experience took place during a spring vacation to Ireland where her family was visiting. Although she doesn't live in Ireland, E and her aunt and uncle do. Their home is near a lake called Loch Derg, and I do hope I didn't butcher the pronunciation of the name of the lake. It was a warm day, and E suggested they head down to the lake to swim and spend the day relaxing. To get there, they passed through the Ballycoogaran woods. I also hope I didn't butcher that name. This was a place steeped with local superstition and said to resemble something out of a fairy tale. Despite the eerie reputation of the woods, the walk didn't faze the original poster. The girls had ventured through the forest many times before. After reaching the lake, E led her to a quiet, tucked away spot to ensure privacy. Wasting no time, she decided to jump straight into the water. Yet as she prepared to dive in, an odd feeling washed over her, a sense that something wasn't quite right. She swam around for about 10 minutes before E finally joined her. They began swimming further from the shore, heading towards a part of the lake shaded by overhanging branches and trees. Swimming a bit faster, she reached the secluded area before E. Upon arriving, the atmosphere suddenly shifted in a way she had never experienced before. When her cousin called up to her moments later, she distinctly felt something brush against her leg, leaving her mystified and unsettled. Initially, she assumed it had been E who touched her leg and asked her about it. However, E seemed genuinely baffled and insisted that she hadn't done it, suggesting instead that it was likely just a fish. Reluctantly, she dismissed the strange sensation and carried on. After lingering in the area for about 5 minutes, the two decided to race back to the spot where they originally entered the water. As they swam, her cousin moved ahead, leaving her trailing slightly behind. That was when she felt a hand grip her leg. Knowing it couldn't have been E, she let out a scream. Her cousin glanced back, visibly alarmed, but she was too shaken to explain, so they both pressed on. When they returned to their belongings, she glanced down and noticed blood seeping from two scratches on her leg. Scratches that unmistakably looked like they had come from human fingernails. E was horrified when she saw the injury, and the original poster finally confessed what happened as they were swimming back. Grabbing their things, they hurried away from the lake. As they made their way home, tiny flickers of light began to drift around them like glowing specks. Once they arrived back at E's house, they holed up in her room and dove into researching what might have been in the water. Their search led them to information about the Fae, and the more they read, the more convinced they became that they had crossed paths with something otherworldly. Although she knows tales of the Fae were deeply embedded in Irish folklore, both of them had surprisingly never encountered such stories before. Intrigued and unnerved, they went downstairs and asked E's mother if she had ever heard of Fae in the area. To their astonishment, her aunt not only confirmed the legends but also shared her own encounter with the Fae when she was around 12 years old. The next few weeks left her and E being rattled and uneasy. As her vacation came to an end, she had to leave for home, but the memory of that day has lingered with her ever since. In an update to her post, she says that she still bears a scar from that day, an unforgettable mark left from when she was just 13 years old. She was 19 at the time of her post, and she planned to study abroad in Ireland, with the memories of that unsettling experience having resurfaced. Recently, she's been haunted by vivid nightmares about the forest and whatever might have been lurking in that water. The recurring theme in these dreams seems to center around the Fae, which she had never heard of prior to her encounter and hadn't given much thought to in the years since. As her return to Ireland approached just a week after she updated her story, she felt compelled to share her encounter and seek feedback, especially from those who have expertise in folklore or the Fae. She left her post intending to update everyone if anything happened during her trip, eager to know whether what she experienced might have been an encounter with the Fae or if she and E had simply overanalyzed the situation at the time. Whatever the truth may be, she hopes for guidance, insight, and a better understanding of the mysteries surrounding that day. One of the scariest things for some people is swimming in water where they can't see the bottom, much less have something reach up and grab their leg. But not only to grab it, but to also leave bloody scratches and scars as well? I don't think I'd be going back in the water after that. On top of this is the fact that she describes the scratches as looking like they were left by human fingernails. I'll be honest, I'm not sure if there are any fish or aquatic wildlife that could leave scratches that look like they were left by a human. This, along with the fact that the woods were steeped in local superstition and said to resemble something out of a fairy tale, along with what she felt right before she jumped in the water, I don't think this was any normal aquatic wildlife. As for what this could have been, I did some research on water-based fae, and one of the first things that came up was the water sprite. These creatures are based in European mythology, also known as water fairies, and are said to be able to breathe air and water, as well as be able to fly. Another type of fae that this could have been is something called a kelpie, which in Irish lore is a web-footed water spirit that has the mane and tail of a horse but the body of a woman. In Scottish folklore, kelpie appear as friendly seahorses who allow people to ride them only to drown them once they're away from the shore. In any case, whatever this thing was that grabbed her leg and left the scratches that led to scars, she was very lucky it didn't continue to pursue her. I'm just glad she and her cousin escaped unscathed. What do you think of this story? And what do you think grabbed her leg that day? Also, does this story make you want to go for a swim? And that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed these stories. If you'd like to hear more stories like these and other types of cryptids, make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you want to send me your story, I'd love to read it. My email is wolfwhocriedcryptid@gmail.com. I will also put my email in the description below. With your permission, I may want to use your story in an episode. Even if you'd prefer I didn't share your story on my channel and just want someone to listen, email me. We can privately talk about your encounter. Also, if you'd like to come on an episode and tell your own story, email me. Please remember to keep it civil in the comment section. No one deserves to be ridiculed whether they believe or not. Thank you for listening. I'll catch you at the next episode.